Thanks, guys, and thanks, Rory, for inviting me. This is my book, The Advertising Effect. If you want one, there's 4 of them there. Just grab one. I'm here with a mate of mine, John Wilkins, is over there. The last time I was presented with him, it was at Cannes Lions a couple of years ago, and I had diarrhoea so badly that I had to wear an adult diaper as I was presenting. So anything is better than that. So I'm feeling much better than that. We're now going to do an experiment, okay? It's actually just a quiz, but if I call it an experiment, you guys will think, ooh, it's behavioural economics. So here we go. Here's our quiz, experiment, sorry. All right, you're at the pub with a friend, and then your friend says, I'm bringing over another friend is going to come and join us. And they tell you a bit about him. He went to a very good university. He now has a successful business of his own, despite being quite young. He's nice looking, he's really into cycling, and he volunteers at a charity every Monday. And this is him. I'm now going to talk about another person, and I want you to tell me who you like more, who you like to hang out with a bit more. Okay, so this is another scenario now. You're at the pub with a friend, and he says he's going to introduce you to another friend. And then he tells you a bit about him. This next friend went to a good university. He has a successful business of his own, despite being relatively young. He's really into cycling and volunteering. But on the way to coming to meet you, he walked under a tree, and unbeknownst to him, he's got pollen all through his hair and on his shirt. And he sits down and he says, hi. Who do you want to hang out with more, A or B? Just write down A or B if you could, because I'm going to ask you a few of these. Everyone written it down? Cool. The next one, you're shopping with a friend, and you're both out there shopping for a casual pair of jeans. You see a brand you like, and you go over to it, and you pick it up, and you pick up the label, and the label says, these jeans will maintain consistent colour over time with regular washing. Okay, that's option A. Option B, you're shopping for a casual pair of jeans with a friend. You see a pair you like, you pick them up and you read the label, and the label says, colour variation of these jeans will occur over time and with washing. Cool? Which one do you want, A or B? And then the last quiz, part of the experiment. You're at a supermarket and you see 2 stands selling cookies. And you pick the cookie up and you're about to eat it, and I just want to know which one you find more desirable. Cookie A or cookie B? Cookie A or cookie B? Okay, that's it. You've got everyone written down your answers. We'll get to the answers in a sec. Next, I would like to, this is all presentations, all a little bit disjointed, and a lot of this material is from the new book, so I'm not going to talk about that book at all. I'm so surprised that no one's coming and grabbing those books, so feel free to grab it. Good. So this film I'm about to show you, a mate of mine who's a psychologist and I just want to say on those books, if you're extroverted enough to get up there to grab one of those books, I guarantee you're never going to bother to read it. You certainly would have never bought it. Therefore, I can promote that book without eating into sales, which is good. This film was done by a mate of mine and it was in the official selection for the St Kilda Short Film Festival, which is Australia's kind of most premium short film festival. Which was only on a month ago. It's 4 minutes. I'm going to use up 15 minutes of my time to show you this film. So thanks for indulging me on that. It had nothing to do with the rest of the presentation. I'm kind of kidding. So in case you missed it, Batman's the only mortal superhero. Gets his strength from embracing his weaknesses. Scared of bats, that'll become my motif. I'm immortal, but I've now got superpowers. There's a guy here wearing a Superman T-shirt. Superman's the opposite of Batman. He's the superficial, kind of glib kind of guy. This guy's the guy of real depth, real character, real meaning. Based a lot on, not saying the guy wearing that shirt. So this kind of stuff about embracing your dark side, embracing your shadow should sound familiar to a few people. It's kind of a concept of yin and yang. Jungian psychology is built on this kind of stuff a lot. And through society, there's lots of different examples of it as well. If you think about the Japanese concept of wabi-sabi, which is there's beauty in imperfections and there's beauty in old age as well, and therefore that's their example of a beautiful ceramic thing. It's never kind of perfect. They're raked gardens. Although they look kind of seemingly perfect, there's always a stone chucked in the middle of it and the rake has to go around the stone and so on. So what they're doing is, again, they're finding beauty in imperfection, beauty in vulnerabilities, and also it's acknowledging to themselves that you have to embrace your dark side. You have to embrace your weaknesses, the strengths and our vulnerabilities. In a marketing sense, and take this to advertising, the opposite's kind of true as well. Your positives are most likely going to be category generics. If you're in the tourism industry and you've got a beach, you're going to see lots and lots of pretty beaches. If you're in the alcohol industry, you're going to have lots of light and refreshing beers across the thing. But for marketers, I wonder, don't really know, but I wonder if there's a lot more engagement to be had when we start to look at the weaknesses and look at our foibles. Which gets me on to Elliot Aronson, who's one of the psychologists who I discovered, and he's one of the top 100 psychologists of all time, but I discovered him in my first book, and then I discovered this experiment he did in the 60s called the PRATFALL effect, or the PRATFALL experiment. Has anybody heard of this? Can you just put your hand up? A few of you? One of you? Two of you? Oh, cool. So this experiment's unreal. What they did is they got a whole lot of people to listen to other people trying out for a quiz show. And one guy, the first guy they're listening to, gets all the answers right, is banging it, going blah, blah, blah. He's got a great CV as well, and they say he's a good-looking guy. It's all done through audio, though, so they can only hear his answers. And he's getting everything right. The second, he actually gets 92% of the questions right. The second person they listen to is getting about 40, actually it's less than 50%, about 45% of the questions right, but his CV's kind of not quite as good as the other guys as well. So, and then they have to rank, then all the listeners have to rank these people on their competence let's just say likability. And everyone rates the top guy, they like him and he seems more competent than the bottom person. Then through the audio recording, what happens is this. You hear this, the 1960s equivalent of, oh fuck, I've just spilt something on myself, whatever it is that they've said. And you hear them say they spilled a coffee on themselves. Now what then happens is, they then take another rating and say, right, now I want you to rate how much you like these people and how competent they are. And the interesting thing that happens is, the person who was really competent before, their rating goes up, and they like them even more because they've screwed up. So and the other thing that happens, unfortunately, is if you then rank you very competent before, that just reinforces that perception, and your ranking goes down. So when I came up on stage, and if you thought to me, this guy's really kind of cool or competent or whatever, and I tell you that story about shitting my pants, you would have liked me even more. For those of you who thought I was from Australia, uneducated, whatever, my rating would have gone down. So there you go. So, and this has also happened, this exact experiment happened to me some years ago, pitching for a shopping centre account in Melbourne. I spilt coffee as I was presenting. The went right across the table. We ended up winning this account. This is many years ago. I asked them when we won the account. They said when you spilt that coffee, we just, and actually told us the story. That was the moment for them that they decided that they wanted to work with us. So it's kind of interesting. So that's the pratfall effect, and it's the tendency for attractiveness to increase after an individual makes a mistake. Brackets, only if they're perceived as relatively competent before they make that mistake. So did it work? Who just chuck your hand straight up for A? Chuck your hand straight up for B? Cool, it worked. And in that little experiment, there's a whole lot of information there about him being quite a competent, well-rounded kind of individual. So, does this hold true for brands? A or B? Who said A? Who said B? Yeah, so it works again with the pair of jeans, which kind of lose their colour over time. And for the cookie, who said A? Who said B? Yeah, and so it works well for the cookie too. That cookie is obviously more irregular than the other cookie. You may or may not be able to detect that, but at some level you would. So it's kind of cool, huh? There's a brand called Little Creatures beer in Australia. I'd highly recommend it. I'd have recommended it more about 10, 15 years ago. 10, 15 years ago, if you had a Little Creatures beer, what tended to happen if you left the beers in the Eskies all day is that all the labels would peel off. And so the labels would peel off and everybody kind of enjoy their beer. But the labels peeling off said to me, oh, that beer is about craft. It's kind of, it's done in small batches, can't get it right, it's not mass produced. Lion bought this beer company, fixed the labels up. The labels never peel off anymore. It's now perfect. I don't think that's been particularly correlated with sales or whatever, but it's just an interesting example of I had a beautiful thing before where the central proposition of that brand, that this is a craft beer that I'll enjoy drinking, was reinforced by an imperfection, by the fact that the labels peeled off. Therefore, that says to me, this craft beer is even better than I thought. The PRATFALL effect was taken on board by a couple of behavioural economists, Bubba Shiv and another guy, and they tried to replicate it through 3 different experiments, looking at hiking boots, looking at chocolate bars, and looking at wine glasses. So they asked people's perceptions on the hiking boots, whether they liked them more or less, and then they said they're only available in 1 or 2 colours. They gave people sampling cracked chocolate bars to people, and then they sampled chocolate bars whole or cracked with students under a certain condition where the chocolate bar was given to them in a clear plastic bag. People preferred the cracked chocolate bar because it helped them rationalise to themselves why these people were giving out chocolate bars at a discount. And the final example was wine glasses with a hard box so they could get the wine glasses could come in, wasn't available, they gave it to them in a crush box. Again, when they could get a crush box, they preferred the wine glasses. So it kind of feels like this is the only example I could find of an academic study done on the PRATFALL effect in relation to brands. And it's a pretty ropey study, I reckon, but there's a little bit of evidence that it might be true. So what does this tell us about marketing? At the moment, there's a massive quest for authenticity. So brands are playing, in developed markets, much less of an aspirational role and much less of just a reflect who I am kind of role. And I think if we continue that trend forward, it's not just going to reflect who I am, but brands are more and more going to reflect the repressed side of ourselves, or the stuff that we don't feel comfortable expressing about ourselves, like the dark side and so on. There's a move away from mass-produced, and we also like imperfections. There's the PRATFALL effect, there's blemishing. You'd also know about the negativity bias, the fact that 4.5 out of our 6 primary emotions are negative, and advertisers for so long have been too scared to tap into the other 4.5 apart from joy. So mass marketing is going to include many more mistakes, many more apologies, many more randomisations, and many more imperfections. And we're going to artificially construct those and build those into our products. Sales of VB, Australia's biggest beer, was been declining for the last 20 years. They then reduced the alcohol content by 2%. That couldn't be right. They reduced the alcohol content by 0.5%, from 5% to 4.5%. Then they apologised and sent out an apology letter and said, we screwed up, shouldn't have reduced the alcohol. Sales increased massively from that point and are still on an upward trend. Everyone may have seen this, the Domino's Pizza global CEO on a 2-minute video gets out and apologises to the world for their pizzas tasting like cardboard and tasting like crap, and says we're not going to do that anymore, we're going to start to make things better and so on. Again, acknowledging his dark side, acknowledging their weakness and embracing their vulnerabilities. So, as a final quote, the definition of perfectionism is paralysis. Don't try to get things perfect anymore. Just try to get things close enough, near enough, a little bit like I did with this presentation. The title of my next book is called Blessed with No Ambition, which is what my mum used to always say to me. And it takes the pressure off, allow for mistakes, shit in your pants, do whatever. Thank you very much.
Fantastic. Funnily enough, it helps explain the PRATFALL effect, something. My wife's a curate in the Church of England. Religion's a kind of predecessor to behavioural science, effectively. And one of her colleagues regards it as hugely advantageous to her job that she smokes. Because you've got to deal with someone, you're a vicar, and you've got to deal with someone who's borderline alcoholic and they've just cocked up their marriage. And the fact that you have this visible imperfection that you sneak outside for a cigarette actually helps you talk to them.
Totally.
And the other interesting one is that I've also come across work, when we last had Robert Cialdini here, I don't know how many people